Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Navigating Now. It's your girl, Jocelyn Harrison, and thank you for being with us for another broadcast. Look, tonight is going to be really good. Go ahead and call your friends, your family, your boo, whoever, your child. Join us for this, I think, most important conversation regarding mental health. So tonight we're going to be talking about navigating mental health. And yes, I know it's a big topic. And yes, this will not be the only time that we talk about it. But when I thought about this topic, I thought about one person who I know is an authority on this, and that is Kelley Brown. And so I've invited Kelley to be with us today, and I am excited for having her here with us. Look, there's a lot going on in the world. There were things with mental health before COVID, but since COVID, we know things have just escalated. And there's been such a stigma around mental health issues. And I really want to unpack that. I really want us to have a real conversation about what that looks like. And I know that Kelley is such a practical woman. She is a God-loving woman. And I know that she's going to help us really gain insight on this. And so I'm so happy to have her here with us. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Kelley. Kelley is a mother, a nana, a minister, a licensed counselor, life coach, educator, author, and founder of Joy in Motion. Kelley is the mental health authority in the state of Georgia. She provides fidelity oversight, training, and assistance for community treatment teams at the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. Kelley also provides clinical services as a therapist in a private practice, which is Next Steps Counseling Services, LLC, in Fayetteville, Georgia, under clinical supervision of Dr. Keisha Buchanan. She strategically utilizes a biblical approach to educate and empower individuals on the acceptance and reality of mental illness and the hope of recovery that is equitable and attainable to all ages and genders. Kelley Brown, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm just going to thank you in advance for your knowledge. And I just appreciate you. I appreciate you. Is there anything that I left out of your bio that you want to make sure the people know about you?
You left out one of the most important parts about me. I am a wife. I am a wife to Travis Brown. Okay, that is my son. So that is one of the most important things about me because of him, I have become who I am. So I give a shout out to him because he is that thing that allows me to be free and to grow and to expand in every capacity of my being. So I do thank God for my husband, the good Reverend Travis L. Brown.
Okay, look, how could I forget? How could I forget?
It is okay. It's only been 21 years. It's only been 21 years. In that wonderful union. However, that also has helped to shape who I am today. Yes. I think we've grown together over 21 years, and it has been wonderful to be transparent, even in the topic that we're going to discuss today. Having someone to talk about being non-judgmental and can pray and can believe and can hope for the best. That's what we all need. And he has been that person for me and the children and the ministry. So I want to definitely give him reverence today in that area.
Yes, I appreciate that. I appreciate it. And just so y'all know, I do know Kelley. That's my sister, actually.
Yeah, that's my sister.
We go back a ways. And,
no,
this is a smart chick right here.
Thank you.
I love, the people that just know what they know. Man, that's so good. Kelley, I know you've been in the mental health. You've been studying mental health for a while. You've been in this industry for a while. What led you to become a mental health authority?
Well, I started off actually in mental health that was actually my major, psychology major in college, undergrad. I'm not going to say the year I started college. It's been a very long time. But life has caused me to put a pause in my education. And I went back, and I actually didn't finish in psychology, but I finished in biblical education. So that's where my undergrad is, biblical education. And I went and got a master's in education, leadership, and management. But during that time, it was something about that mental health field that I was just drawn to go back. And in 91, I had an opportunity to work at a residential treatment facility in Midtown Atlanta. And I was there for 7 years. And seeing the impact of mental health on adolescents and teens broke my heart. I would cry. I would just be so empathetic, and I would just want to save all of those young people. And God allowed me, I think that's when it kind of opened up for me, Jocelyn. He allowed me to be the chaplain. I was the chaplain of that hospital. And I had fortunate enough to bring Dr. Nina and some of the singers and dancers to the hospital, and they did some services for us. But he allowed me to begin to start, ministering to those teens and adolescents at the psychiatric hospital way back in 1991. And I really desired, I was facilitating groups, self-esteem groups with the girls, and behavior modifications with, several of the units there at the hospital. And I never forget, one day I just really had this burning to really get back into mental health full time. And it was strange because God took me from the hospital into education. Now, I don't know how that correlated, but that's where I went. I left Hillside and I started teaching. So I taught for 11 years, and it was through a private sector, the Christian education. It was a wonderful experience. My children were able to get free education, and that was really a blessing. But during that tenure, I really wanted to, I don't know what it was about this mental health, but I wanted to get back. So I started working PRN at the hospital. And I would, during spring break and summer breaks, I worked at the hospital the entire time. So maybe about 2011, I went back to school and I decided to become a counselor. And I knew then that was truly a passion and goal for me. Oftentimes, we find ourselves desiring certain careers and paths, but God, he puts us where we need to be. And sometimes it's through circumstances, and sometimes it's through, looking at family members go through things. Sometimes it's through just the heart and a passion for people. But God put me in this field. In 2011, I went back to school and got a master's in counseling. And it has really been rewarding ever since to be able to serve. Now, God put me not just in an area, but he allowed me to touch the lives of the most severe and persistent. Okay. Now, there are levels of mental health and mental illness, but he allowed me to be able to govern and to oversee and to love on the chronically homeless, those individuals that have been in and out of jail, those individuals that deal with psychosis, those individuals that, are living outdoors. So I did that for 7 years at Grady Hospital, a part of their behavioral health unit. And it was such a joy. And God moved me there. I was able to be a part of Mercy Care. That's a wonderful facility downtown. And he took me from that level all the way to the state level of Georgia to oversee now the Fidelity, where now I oversee all of the community service ACT and CST teams across the state of Georgia. And what does that mean? I go in to ensure that the fidelity is met, where our individuals in the state of Georgia, they are receiving adequate services. They are being treated fairly. They are getting the medications. They're getting the education. They're getting housed. They're getting jobs. They're given an opportunity to live again with hope. Because Jocelyn, just because you have that mental health issue, that doesn't define you. That's not who you are. And that's what I am just, I just run over with excitement about how it's a joy to let a person know this is not who you are. You are not defined by depression or anxiety. You are not defined by schizophrenia. You are not defined because you have bipolar. That is not who you are. And I love to parallel this thing, Jocelyn, with health issues. You know, physical health. Oftentimes we because we don't really know any better and we've not been taught. So, you know, we do better when we know better, right? So oftentimes if you go to the doctor and the doctor tells you, well, you know, you have high blood pressure, or you may have diabetes, you may have cancer, maybe you have migraines, maybe you've been diagnosed with some thyroid issues, and all of those are very important, and no one wants to hear those things, right? Well, who wants to go to the doctor and they hear that, you know, they are they have generalized anxiety disorder. They may be bipolar 1 or 2. Maybe they're depressed. You know, life happens. If I eat too much sugar, if I eat too much salt, because that runs in the bloodline. And oftentimes we forget about what happens through our bloodline. But if there are some factors, you know, that I have to be considerate of, because if I don't watch my physical health, I too can go to the doctor one day and I have to start taking medications. So there is no difference in one that has been diagnosed with that diabetes. It's no difference than you going to the doctor because you have depression and anxiety. And it is so important that we as a people, we really become aware of that and we accept that. And we begin to help individuals become whole in every aspect of their life. So that's what I am so excited, and I'm so grateful, because I didn't choose this, but I saw this along the way, along my journey, and I didn't understand it. But sometimes God will handpick you for something. And I know that he has handpicked me for this, because I am just a locomotive when you come to this mental health. And I tell you, I am an advocate for self-care. I am an advocate for individuals that have to deal with it, but yet they are ashamed. And there's no shame in the kingdom. And
okay, well, let's talk about that. Let me. Okay.
I can go on, Jocelyn. You have to cut me off.
Okay, that's good though. No, that's good, because we now know you'll come from, right? And so that's good. We know where your perspective. So before we go down the road a little bit, I want to just say, what is mental health? Let's just start there.
What is mental health? I'm going to give you what the World Health Organization says about mental health. Okay. You know, it can't be argued. All right, so I'm going to read mental health. The World Health Organization has defined mental health as follows. Mental health can be conceptualized as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stress of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. That is mental health, according to the World Health Organization.
Okay, so I want you to read the last 3 things. So it's a state of well-being. A person realizes that person can cope with stress, because I think there were 3 things. They can cope with stress in everyday life.
Yes, they understand their abilities.
Understand their abilities, okay.
They can cope with the normal stressors of life.
Mm-hmm.
And can work productively and fruitfully.
Okay. Yeah, I know I like to take notes, so I'm taking notes.
Absolutely. I'm a note taker too.
And fruitfully. Okay. So they understand their own abilities. They can cope with the normal stresses of life, and they can work productively and fruitfully.
Absolutely. And the last thing is make a contribution to his or her community.
Make a contribution to his or her community.
Yes.
If you're watching this, also please share it with your people. But can you take, if you're watching this, please take those notes down in the comment section. If not, we'll do it later or as we go on, or I may add it later. Just want to make sure you all are with us. Okay, so that's good. So that's mental health. So then anyone basically that cannot do one or more of those, or there's some issues with that, that is mental health illness. That's where the illness part is not able to function properly or contribute or whatever other words I would use that is anti what you just said mental health is.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Now, I mean, you don't have to go into like total diagnosis mode, which we're not doing here. But when you were talking before, you said that there are levels of mental health illness or levels of things that you can experience. How would we determine what those levels are, or where we are, or when do we decide, okay, I might need some help?
So are you saying, when does an individual decide when they need to seek help? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay, so it goes back to their ability, understanding yourself, understanding when you're off a little bit, understanding when you have reached burnout, understanding when you have no longer able to contribute fruitfully, effectively to what you're doing. That's when you need to, and I like to say, grab a pause. That's when you need to put on the brakes and say, wait a minute, I need to slow down. Something's off. And when you find yourself at a point of a constant, there's a chronic, there's a repetitive behavior or mindset or desire that is not your baseline, it's time to be assessed. It's time to start talking to someone. It's time to really start taking those mental notes, to say something's off,
Mm-hmm.
Even if you think about your physical, there are signs for individuals that have high blood pressure. Maybe they start getting frequent headaches. Maybe they get dizzy. Individuals that maybe have diabetes, there's some tingling going on. So there are signs, even in the mental health area, where individuals need to really pay attention to. And I try to educate people about know thyself and know what's going on in your body.
Yeah.
And understand that baseline, and understand, when you have chewed too much off, sometimes we kind of chew things off on both ends of the candle. And we have to reel ourselves in, because every mental health issue and problem is not diagnosable. It doesn't have to be a diagnosable situation, but there are some that are. But whatever the level is, it needs to be accepted, and it needs to be protected. And it also needs to be supported. And those things that we really have to understand, the acceptance of this mental illness, or it could just be, sometimes individuals just have symptoms of it because of life, because things happen. It's situational.
No, that's good. I like that. Definitely. Okay, so y'all get this now. First of all, know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say that again? Know yourself. Because the only way you can even know when something's off is if you know what your baseline is. Kelley said there's a baseline, that we all have a baseline that we operate from, right? And we know sometimes there may be ups and there may be downs, and maybe ups and maybe downs in life. But if you see yourself kind of exceeding, like if this is the line and it seems like you're all the way up here and then you're all the way down here, or you're all the way down here all the time, as opposed to leveling yourself out, that may be a sign that you want to get some help. And then you said, whether it's chronic or repetitive behavior, that's not your baseline, right? That's where you want to say, okay, something's not right with this. And like you said, it may not even be something diagnosable, but because you know yourself, you know, hey, I might need to talk to somebody about this.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So I love that. So know yourself, but know your baseline, like know how you operate, what your, you know, your standard operating procedure is for your own.
Exactly.
I like that. And then I also love that you said it needs to be accepted, protected, and supported.
Yes.
And would you say that the first acceptance has to come from, and maybe that's what you were saying, is we have to accept it? Because a lot of times we don't want to accept it because of what we think it means.
Absolutely. That definitely plays a major part, but also I found, and I'm just encountering more and more people, it's not so much because of them, it's the stigma that they've lived with for so long. It could be even just the demographics. It could be the family, you know, that will tell you there is nothing wrong with you. Get over it. Pray about it. We don't talk about this. And that causes them to withdraw and not get the help that they need. And I've seen that more than one time. So it does, you know, it stems from, you know, just acceptance of self. And a lot of times when things are, when individuals, there's changes and adjustments that go on in life, there's a sense of denial. Absolutely. And then once you begin to accept it, now you have to deal with family and friends and the community and the church and all of the things that we are afraid of, those mountains and those institutions that we have so much faith in, you know? So that's kind of twofold. And that's most important. That latter part is oftentimes people know something's wrong, but I'm afraid because if I say it, then I'm going to be rejected. They're going to tell me.
What will people think? Yes. What will my family think? And then your parents may have their own shame around it. And so because they have shame, they won't even do what they need to do to help you or to have the conversations with you about it. And it's, as you were talking, it made me, I watched a show called All Rise.
Okay.
And it's based on the judges and all of this in California. And there was a case that came up where this man was charged with assault or something like that. And he decided they were going to try him for murder or for the assault or for whatever it was. And he was trying not his lawyer was wanting to say, maybe there's something wrong. You know, maybe this isn't, because like he doesn't even remember like doing this. And it wasn't until like he acted out towards her, like out of the blue. And she realized, okay, there's something mentally happening here. Asked his father initially, is there anything like in your family line, in your bloodline, where there may be some mental issues? And he was like, no. But then when she saw him act out towards her, she was like, okay, there's something going on. Right. So she went back to the father. She was like, I clearly saw something demonstrated. What are you not telling me? And then he was basically like, his mother or somebody in the family had a similar issue. But he never wanted to talk about it because he didn't want his son to have that stigma, because the person has a stigma. Certainly. And so she's like, but you need to understand though, if we don't talk about it, he's going to jail for assault or murder or whatever it was. Absolutely. But what he really needs is some help. So I think for you to be okay, you need to be okay with being able to testify in the court system saying, okay, this is a real thing. Right. I mean, that was kind of an extreme case, and I know it wasn't true, but I can imagine those things happen all of the time because people do not want to accept it. Absolutely. They do not want to accept it for their own family members. Absolutely. And then they know that it's real because it's been real in their lives. Right.
Parents know that they've dealt with some things in the past, and maybe they have overcome and championed through those things. Now, here comes your daughter, here comes your son exhibiting some of those same symptoms, and we don't want to acknowledge it. We don't want to, be vulnerable enough to say, I understand that. I've seen that before. I've dealt with that before. But this is what you can do, and I'm here to help you. And there's no shame around any of it. And that's where we really have to get to as a people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And then you said, so accept it. We need to accept it. We need to protect it and support it. Like when you say protect, what does that mean for you when you say that?
I mean, there's a sense of course, shame around individuals that have to, hear or maybe dealing with symptoms, and family members are aware. And, there's we grew up with nicknames about, individuals with mental health. They were cuckoo and crazy and all of those things that just makes my hair stand up on my arms and I cringe. I'm like, don't say that. They're not crazy. Don't call them Fruit Loops, and some, we grew up with that. We didn't know any better until you get in the field and you really have an opportunity to work with individuals and to love on them in a way and encourage them and empower them and let them know you are somebody and God loves you because he made you. So we have to protect those individuals by esteeming them, by empowering them, by using the right language. And it's all about the language that we use. It's our body language and what comes out of our mouth. And they may not smell the best. They're not going to always, have the best language. You might get cussed out 5 and 10 times, but know where that's coming from. Don't take it personal, because you're dealing with someone that they're not well. I mean, just think about, I can remember maybe going into the hospital and visiting friends and families, and they were sick, had some serious medical chronic illnesses, and they were mean, and they were depressed, and they were, maybe using profanity, but you didn't take it personal because you knew where that came from. And you understood and you allowed them to do that and to express whatever that anger was and to express that hurt and to express whatever that was that they needed to express, but you didn't take it personal. So you have an individual with mental health issues and maybe they are, psychotic, or maybe they are, in a place where they are, there's highs and lows, maybe they're in their manic stage, and they might be on a rampage but you understand that. So that's why education is so important around this thing, Jocelyn, so we can understand where they're coming from and we don't take it personal. And we don't have to call the police every time something happens, because that always, most times, it will go south.
Yeah.
So the protection is so important with the ones that we love and care for, and even the ones that we don't. The advocacy to protect those that don't have a voice. We have to protect them. We have to protect them, and we have to cover them, and we have to let them know that there is no shame in this thing.
Yeah.
Don't be ashamed. And I have experience even with our disclose, postpartum with my daughter. And, I told we will not be ashamed. Yes. There is help. There is help. There is hope. And this is not uncommon. There are women all over the world that have postpartum, and some deal with it for months and years, and some may have it for a few days. But whatever the length of time is, you open your mouth and yet you declare there's victory, because there's always that biblical truth. So we always started in with the biblical approach. But there are some things that we need to do. There's some techniques, there's some strategies, there's some things that we can do to help. And that's what happened. And I tell you, the victory was hers in that. But if I sat back as a mom that was ashamed to hear her daughter say, no, you open up your mouth because you're going to help somebody else. And when she did that, it was a river that began to flow of ladies and girls that have come out. I dealt with that. I could not get out of bed. I cried. I could not hold out. 3 months. There are women dealing with postpartum depression. Yes. And I tell you, if you have, and if you will, Know that there is another side to that thing. Open up your mouth and talk to somebody and get help and be free, because God wants us all. He wished above all that we would prosper and be in good health.
Yes.
That's good health. Okay. That's mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially, all of the things that we strive for. God wants us to thrive in those things. But if we are ashamed, if we become ashamed of those things, then we're talking and we're around the wrong people. So get around the right people that will support you. I don't care what level, I don't care what's going on in life. Get around them to be able to accept and protect you.
Yes.
Because that's important.
Yes.
It's important.
Oh, that is so good. That is so good. Oh, you have said a mouthful already, I tell you. And that's the thing. And that's one reason why I wanted to really talk to you about this, because I know that people are suffering, and people are suffering in silence. And just think, and I'm sure you saw this, the uptick. We had a whole year, literally, it's been a whole year of people being quarantined, not being able to be around people. So that in and of itself does something to people. What can you say about that?
That was one of the most trying times, I believe, for everyone across the globe. That adjustment period, you've had more people that had a lot of adjustment disorders just from this pandemic. People that they may have been able to, navigate through life easily and no issues. But when that pandemic hit and we're shelter in place and things are not the way they were, and your social life has gone from maybe 15 to now 0, where you're not used to love to travel, used to love to go out. Marriages have suffered. Some marriages didn't make it. Individuals that were used to, they had a routine going to work. When it comes to, the churches, they were closed. That I actually had to adjust to that, because my routine for years have been in the church every Sunday. And not only that, being able to minister and dance, which is also another wonderful tool. It is a wonderful tool to allow an individual to be free and break free. And when you understand what dance does and what ministry does and movement, and how there's such authority and there's warfare, and it is a weapon. And I was not able to use my weapon in a corporate setting. So that I had to make an adjustment. That I had to grab a pause, as I say. And I had to settle myself in the things that were no longer the same for me and my family. But just that whole shelter in place, it has caused many to go into depression, anxiety. Individuals that struggled with substance use, they relapsed. Now, all of last year, I worked PRN at a hospital, and I have had an opportunity to assess many individuals that really were in sobriety for years. And now we are dealing with a pandemic. They couldn't go to groups. They had no one to talk to. And I tell you, what else were they going to do but find that comfort in what they found many years ago, and going back to the bottle, going back to that substance of their choice? I've had so many young people that have been hospitalized because of the stress of the amount of work they had in school, where they were so overwhelmed with the assignments, they wanted to just die. They wanted to just give up. They went into a depression. This is a real thing that has impacted everybody from every level. Where you have individuals that had to be shut in, and you have that husband and wife that they were so busy, they weren't used to talking. And now you got to look at each other every day. Now you have to, let's just keep it real. You have to look at each other. You have to create a space. You have to be able to maintain and find a new way of living together. It's one thing to be an empty nester, when kids go off, but you still have freedom to travel and go places, but you're an empty nester and you can't go nowhere. That's a whole dynamic in itself. So this pandemic has really impacted so many individuals. They've caused them to take step backwards. They've caused individuals to really come into denial about what's really going on with them. People have lost their jobs. And it's difficult to find a job because a lot of companies were not hiring during the pandemic. And if you found a job, God bless you, God bless you, God bless you. But there are so many individuals I know across the state of Georgia. We had cut so many of our positions were cut and jobs were lost. So it was a very, very traumatic time for people. And we are in a place now where we seem to be still moving slowly. Things have gotten a lot better with there's vaccinations and there's, things are kind of opening up, but there's still just that level of caution. We still proceed with an abundance of caution.
Yeah. And,
it's still not, people are still not the same. We're now double masking now.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I mentioned earlier, 1 in 5 individuals, that may have tripled, because there's so much that's going on with society and people dealing with so much more anxiety, and that's that we cannot deal with the stressors and pressures of life. And it causes us to become or act differently in terms of what we were used to, behaving, thinking. Our thinking process changes or has changed during this time.
Yeah, no, that's so serious. Yeah, thank you for that. And so I know this just impacts people across the board because you have the person that's impacted, you have the family that's impacted, you got the employer that may be impacted, and so you've got the child that may be impacted by, and so how as a person, if I'm a support person, I know you've actually probably said a lot of this already, but first of all, I love what you talked about, like the words you speak, your body language, all of that, really standing in the gap for that person, for that loved one who you see may be going through some things. What else as a person who may be impacted by this can we do?
If you're impacted, there's a loved one, maybe a colleague. The best thing you can do is to have a listening ear. It's to be able to actively listen to the individual, because there's going to be some self-report. They're going to tell you what's going on. And oftentimes people do tell us what's going on with them, and we don't listen. We kind of reframe it in our own way. If I tell you my back hurting me and I'm tired, that's exactly where my stressors and anxieties are from.
Yeah.
Don't focus on my behavior and stressors and attitude. I just told you my back hurt me and I'm tired because I'm working 20 hours, a day or 15 hours a day. But we don't want to, we don't hear, the problem. See, there's a root to everything. Most individuals will self-report what's going on with them. If they say they're depressed and they're overwhelmed, don't discount that. We want to know, how can I help you? What can I do for you? What do you need? And sometimes they might say nothing because they don't know. And here we get offended again. And we want to give them the prescription, and we want to tell them how they need to overcome this thing. And oftentimes they have to work through that themselves because it is their process. But being there for them is the first and most important thing. Listening non-judgmentally. Don't tell them what they need to do. What would you like to do? That's most important. And then sometimes people are ready for help because they're asking for help. So then you can give them some resources if you're not, the subject matter expert in this thing. You can give them the emotional support line across the state of Georgia. They can call and text that line 24/7. And I have that number if you want me to give it to you, John.
Please do. Please do.
The emotional support line, you can call or text. Now there's a texting function on that line, which is wonderful. It is 100% confidential. They won't know you and you won't know them, but you'll get some help and support. That number is 8938. Let me give it to you again. 866-399-8938. You can call or text. That's an emotional support line. And we actually, that line was established in the beginning of the COVID-19 across the state of Georgia because it was such a need. Now we have other, our peer support lines. NAMI is actually another wonderful resource that we like to give. That's a National Alliance of Mental Illness. And they actually have a website. I don't have a number for them, but it's www.nami.org.
Awesome. Awesome. That is so good. And what I'm imagining too is because we do have viewers that watch this that don't live in Georgia, but I would imagine if you live in another state and if you don't know, or even a city, because I'm sure maybe some cities have it too, go and check to see if there's an emotional support or something similar to that resource at your state or municipality level. And especially if you don't know who to call, if you're like, I don't know any doctors, or I don't know, who to, but I would say, even if you have like a primary care physician that you go to,
absolutely,
talk to them and they can refer you. I know many jobs also, many employers also have programs, I think it's EAP programs, where you can go and have a couple of sessions free even before you even have to start paying. So I know that there are resources for sure out there. And we want to make sure that you have those resources and that you allow yourself that opportunity. I love though, so to get back to what you said, as a person who is impacted by this, the things that I heard you say is, first of all, just being there for them.
Yes.
First of all, just being a presence in their life and
that's it. Being present. And that's the operative word there, being present. Because sometimes, we have people right under our nose that's going through things and we don't even know, because we're so busy. We're all over the place and we're not present. We are not in tune with them. And they're sad. Our parents and grandparents and even our college students.
Yeah.
When I tell you this thing has hit our college students like none other, they were not able, especially our freshmen. It was a totally different dynamic going to college this year. We had so much anxiety and stress and depression with our college students, and they were not able to get to the youth groups because they were closed. And that in itself, it just broke my heart. It just broke my heart because, when we went to college, we were excited about college, right?
Yes.
And some went off and, that experience with just in the dorm and you can't leave the dorm.
Yeah.
What about our students that were graduating from high school or even college?
Oh my gosh, yes.
We have to take that into consideration, and we're so busy, we forget the signs. And oftentimes people, they're not going to come out and say, well, I'm sad and I'm depressed because of stigma, because of what you're going to say, because of that judgmental, tone that you'll hear. So being present, and that means being intentional and knowing the person around you. I've noticed that they changed a little bit. They used to talk, they ain't talking now.
Yeah.
They used to like certain things. They used to like to go out. They used to like to get the nails done. I'm noticing they're not doing those things. So that's when you want to check in, and you identify, I noticed that you used to enjoy this. And I see that you hadn't enjoyed it. You know, I'm not seeing you doing these things, the activities or conversations, or maybe you talked to someone and you hadn't heard from them in a long time.
Yeah.
It's not because they probably at home having a good time. They probably not having a good time at all. And that might be the best time to call them to say, are you okay? You know, I hear from you what's going on, and then you'll hear their story.
Yeah.
But just that checking in and being in tune and watching the signs. You see a person, they may have their head down. You might think they're praying. You might think they sleep. They might be contemplating suicide.
Right. Yeah.
They might be thinking about, should I take these pills or I shouldn't?
Yeah.
We miss a lot of signs because there's always signs. Most often there are signs, and sometimes because we are just a busy person. But I am grateful for the shutdown because it allowed me to stop, you know, in all of my busyness, to pay more attention to the people in my home and the people around me and the girls that are attached to me, and really seeing where they are. And sometimes people, they're not in the places we think they are, right? And it's like, man, I miss that. I need to do better.
Yeah.
I need to do better because I want to help.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is so good. I'm glad you expounded on that because it really is important. And the thing is I don't have children, but I can imagine, you know, because we've all been shut in, you kind of like, good, I'm glad my child is on their own, handling their business. You know what I'm saying? But you really do need to check in.
You better check in.
How you doing? What you doing?
That's right.
You know, hey, let's come and talk. And finding ways to communicate with them where you may not have, because just like I would imagine, we talked about marriages, some marriages struggling, some didn't, some actually got better. But because you the struggle came because you were leading these busy lives, or part of the struggle, I guess, you lead these busy lives. So you were in and out, in and out, in and out. And you really didn't have to spend that much time with each other.
Certainly.
Recognize, oh my gosh, you know, and the same thing happens with our kids. You know, my friends that have kids, you know, many of them are older now, but it's the thought of, okay, they're in soccer, they're in gymnastics, they're in dance, they're in this, they're in that. So you're running them here and to and fro, and it's the same thing. I'm sure you're talking to them. You might be talking to them in the car. You may not be. You might be talking to them at the dinner table. You may not be. But if you all are so busy, you've had such a busy life, and to see some of that taken away, and some people are going back to some of their activities. Mm-hmm. But that is, we can hide ourselves in the midst of all that busyness. So now that we have had the opportunity to slow down, what are you going to do as a parent? What are you going to do as a spouse? What are you going to do as a friend to really be able to check in with yourself and to check in with your friends, just to see, hey, I hope you're well. How's it going? You know, and to be okay. And I know I've had situations where I may have asked someone and they don't want to talk about it.
Right.
Sometimes they don't want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, if you really know that person.
Right.
When something's not right. So it might not be the opportune time at that time.
Absolutely.
Let it just go, especially if you know. Seek them again. Maybe hit them when y'all are kikiing and kakaan and say, hey, let's talk about, what's going on with you. So just, I love that you drill down into that, and just being present and doing the check-in. And that's as far as being there for them, that's really, I think, crucial. And then just having a whole non-judgmental attitude and listening, and really listening.
Yeah,
and then giving them the resources when they're like, yeah, I need some help. Even if it's, say, I'll go with you. I mean, if they, I know now sometimes you can't go with people or whatever, or hey, checking in, make sure you called. I know we've had the conversation. Is everything right? Did you make your appointment? Did you, here's a line you can call or whatever. Praying with them, praying for them.
Absolutely.
And being there. Yeah.
And empowering them. Oftentimes,
I love that. Yeah.
Especially of the faith, because now God has allowed me to be a part of the faith-based initiative across the state of Georgia. And what our goal is we are reaching out to churches and trying to get that buy-in and trying to get support for individuals in their community so the church can wrap around them, you know. Yeah. And we're preparing for Mental Health Awareness Month in May, and it's going to be a virtual forum, and we will have a faith-based section there. We had a conference early on in the pandemic, and we had the pastor from Springfield Baptist Church and other individuals of faith. But oftentimes when it comes to that, individuals, they just do not want the support because they believe they're not supposed to get support because they're not supposed to be dealing with this mental illness. Now, I can be taking medication for migraines, and I can be taking medications for my thyroid issue, and that's okay. Yeah. But don't let me have to take a pill for, depression, or don't let me have to take a pill for ADHD, because then that's something different. Yeah. Let me ask you this. Oh, I'm going to stop you right there, because here's the thing. I want to talk to you about this, and we talked about talking about this, but I feel like I want us to really be able to unpack it. We're already at almost an hour. Okay. Let me ask you, Kelley. I'm asking you on the fly. Would you be willing to come back and be a guest again? Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. I would love it. It would be my joy. I think that thing right there, like that thing right there, looking at mental health in the church, and mental health in the religious communities and all, I think that's its own thing. That's its own baby. That's own beast. Yeah, that's its own thing. Yeah. Yeah. And so I want us to be able to really have the time to really go there. And so I'm going to say, if we do a separate show broadcast on it. Okay. And I would love to have you back for that. And we'll talk about a time. We're going to get Kelley back, y'all. I know you have enjoyed her. I hope you've enjoyed. I mean, this is so good. I mean, I could ask like 1,000 more questions because there's still, I know some things that we still need to really unpack. But I think even what we talked about today is so key, and even getting people to start thinking and to see mental health and mental wellness in a more holistic way. Right. Whether it's you dealing with something, or someone that you love dealing with it. What else do you want to add to anything that you may have said so far? Well, based on what you just said, Jocelyn, sometimes even the people that are caregivers and they sit back and they watch their loved ones deal with mental challenges. That's very, very, very challenging for the individual. And oftentimes you have to really have really good self-care. You have to know your own baseline, because oftentimes you can start sinking into some depression and some anxieties because you're caring for individuals. You can become very discouraged. You can become, in a place of hopelessness. And you can start believing, as that person on the outside, this is not going to change. This person is not going to get better. This is going to be a lifelong traumatic experience for us all. Yes. But I want to tell that person that is not the case. It doesn't have to be the case. Because when you're shored up and you are empowered and you are strong in yourself and your faith, and you're taking care of your own mental health, your mental wellness, then you are able at that point to support and to gird up. And you're built a little better to take care of and to watch the loved one, the coworker, whoever that person is, go through those mental challenges, ups and downs. But know that, there is always hope, and there is always recovery. I'm telling you, it is a real thing, and it happens for people. And, if we don't leave from this call with anything else, Johnson, I want the people to know there is hope, there is recovery. And I know I have seen individuals that live, I'm telling you, an abundance of life, and they live quality lives with mental illnesses. Mm-hmm. And it is okay, just as people living quality lives that maybe have hypertension.
Okay.
You may have bumped your baby toe, and now your toe is throbbing every day, but you're gonna still live your best life with that bump, with that toe that's throbbing. So individuals with anxieties and depressions, they too can learn to live their best lives. And we have to be the ones to help and to encourage them to do so, because it is possible. Like the Bible says, God, all things are possible, right? I believe that, I know that, and it doesn't matter where you are, all things are possible.
Yeah. And so, okay, I definitely want to drive this one home. So understand that if you are feeling some kind of way, first of all, we want you to get help.
Yes.
And I said that very non-technically, some kind of way. I know that's just a non-technical way. But if you are, your baseline, you know that you are not operating along your baseline, as Kelley said initially. If you have dealt with some kind of recent trauma, even if you're a self-care, having home health care to your parents or a child or a spouse, there is help for you. We want you to get help. Kelley mentioned the Georgia support line. We want you to do that. But here's the cool thing. The other side of the rainbow is that you can still live a productive and lovely life with managing that particular illness.
Absolutely.
And I love how you just get this, y'all. You may have blood pressure issues or diabetes issues or whatever, ADHD or bipolar or whatever. There are oftentimes are medications, there's therapy, there are things that you can do to help you live a productive life.
Absolutely.
Okay. It is not a death sentence. It does not have to be a death sentence.
Absolutely. Okay.
Now, if you're caring for someone, or even if you are dealing with some things, I love that Kelley brought up self-care. And that is key, because oftentimes what happens is when we're not caring for ourselves, whatever that will look like for you, and I'll ask Kelley to give some ideas of some things that people can do for self-care. When we stop taking care of ourselves, it's hard for us, obviously, to take care of others. Mm-hmm. But even just for your own mental health, for your own just joy of life, you have to pay some attention to yourself. It is not selfish. Let me say that. You are not being selfish.
Thank you.
You are being loving.
Yes.
Okay. Do not let the stigma of I'm the strong Black woman, I'm the strong Black man, I'm the strong.
Come on.
What color you are. I don't care what your race is.
Right.
You are not being selfish. I don't care what your mama might have said, your grandmama, or you looked at them and they never really took care of themselves, or maybe they did.
Right.
You are being loving towards yourself.
Absolutely.
And I want you to talk just a little bit more on that self-care, Kelley.
Okay. Self-care is basically whatever that thing is that you enjoy doing that brings you a relief and allows you to refuel. Okay. And I'm going to speak from a healthy standpoint of self-care. Okay. Some people self-medicate and they do other things to kind of get them. But I'm talking about being able to go to that place. Now, I like to take it from a person-centered perspective because we're all different, right? So when we started with this whole shelter in place, I used to get my nails done, my feet and hair. So I had to start doing that myself. So what did I do? I went out and I ordered a whole gel kit, and I'm gelled out because self-care regimens, they can change. You might get tired of one thing, maybe taking a bubble bath, maybe reading, maybe journaling. You could spend a whole day just binging on Netflix. If that is your self-care, that is what you enjoy doing. And if you love to read, if you love to exercise, it could be cooking. Maybe you wanted to explore some new recipes and you utilize that, listening to music, dancing, whatever that looks like, spending time with family. We went out, we started investing more. We have board games, but I guess the ones that we've had when the kids were here, they got old. We went out and got Uno cards, and we would just have a night. We would sit around and just laugh and have fun playing Uno. And that became a fun time for the family. You want to structure some self-care so that, like Jocelyn said, you can't pour from an empty cup. So you got to steal away to some quiet time, prayer, devotionals. Those are that time where it's just you're enjoying just that quiet time, you and God. Shopping sometimes, could be a form of self-care. We call it retail therapy, right? But whatever that thing looks like for you, it could be different for you, but it has to be something that's going to refuel you and to cause you to kind of relax and unwind in the areas that's bringing you a lot of stress.
Yeah, that's so good. I mean, I always say, I say walking saved my life.
Okay.
During the pandemic. Because not only did it help me release weight, but it helped me to release some of my cares.
Yeah.
It instead of things sitting internally, moving my body allowed me to move those things around and out.
Okay, good. Yeah.
And so I know, like, my dad got really sick during the pandemic, and what was wrong? And he was hospitalized for almost 2 weeks. And I mean, yeah, he got better, but I was like, okay, I don't know. And I'm like trying to care for him. And I'm like, I don't know what the problem is. The doctor's not, they prescribed this, but it's not working, And so walking definitely, I know it was great for me. And journaling may help for some other people.
Yes, absolutely.
Having a funny friend,
Absolutely. Laughing, as much laughter.
I'm telling you.
Laughing is medicine. Yes, it is.
Yes. Honey, I will turn on some Martin sometime, but it's always on TV. Martin was right. But whatever floats your boat. Whatever floats your boat. So we definitely want you to take care of yourself. And I just think that this has been just a great conversation. And I hope that you all have gotten something from it. If you have questions, even, I'm sorry I didn't say this earlier, but if there are questions that you have, put them in the section. Kelley or I will answer them. Or I'll make sure, like if you're watching the replay, I'll make sure that, because I go back and check Kelley, I'll make sure that Kelley gets the questions and we can address them. I'm going to leave it here for now, because I know we talked about what is mental health, right? We talked about acceptance, protection, and support of that person that may be dealing with some mental illness or some issues. We've talked about the fact that there shouldn't be a stigma, because it really is just like getting diagnosed or going to the doctor for anything else. It's it. Mama them didn't talk about it, or they kept Uncle Buck in the back room. Don't talk to him, but the way to heal the issue is to confront it.
Yes.
And to deal with it, right? Because when we don't deal with stuff, that's when it stays attached to us. And we don't have time for that. And we don't want you all to attach yourselves or have yourselves attached. And really, that's when the enemy can even come in even more. But
absolutely, he loves that. Yes, he loves those opportunities to have us to close our mouths and turn the other way. Oh, that's his field.
Yes.
That's his playground. Okay, yes. But we are gonna, ensure today that stops.
Yes.
We're going to have a playground in our lives, in our minds, in our family's life, because we're going to confront it. You'll never change what you're not willing to confront. So we are going to open our eyes. We're going to become more aware. We're going to be educated about this thing so that we truly can walk in liberty as God would want us to be. And that's what's most important.
Yes. Free.
Got to be free.
And Kelley gave the Georgia, if you live in Georgia, she gave the Georgia Emotional Support Line, which is 866-399-8938. It's in the comment section. It'll be in the comment section. And Another website you can go to is the National Alliance of Mental Illness, and that's www.nami.org. Don't live in Georgia and you're watching this, if you check your state's website for any emotional support or mental wellness support there, or even your city. And obviously, if you have an employer that has EAP, we say do that. Yes. And if not, if you don't know who to call, go to your primary care physician, ask for a reference, or if you have a good friend who may have a reference, do that. Am I forgetting anything? We've talked about a whole lot.
We've talked about a whole lot. And one thing I want to say is when you go to the primary care physician, because, you know, their job is wholeness and wellness. Yeah. So when you tell them these issues that you have and they give you that referral, because they will give you a referral, don't go home and put the referral down and never pick it back up. Oftentimes, you know, we don't follow up.
Yeah.
We don't follow up, and that's just not in that area. You can get a referral to go and get, you know, an X-ray, and you don't go get it done.
Right, that's true.
Please follow up. Please follow up. Okay, please follow up. It is necessary.
Yeah, yeah. And just remember, you can live a whole. You can live.
Yes, you can.
Life, even if you've been diagnosed with something, you just manage care. Take care of yourself and get help whenever you need it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Kelley, this has been wonderful. Okay, but before we go, I know you're a busy woman. How can people, I know you have a whole thing on joy. If you want to talk about it briefly, you can, but how can people get in touch with you if they would like for you to speak to the organization or put a program in church and help put a program together for their church, organization, sorority, fraternity, anything like that? How can people get in touch with you? And what do you have on the horizon that you want to let people know about?
Well, coming up, up and coming, like I said, we're working on the May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So I'll be working not only on the state level, but we're also actually doing something at Light of Joy. So I'm so excited about that. So God is so good. Okay. So I am going to be kind of spearheading and gathering individuals on the state level to support that. If you need to reach me or would like to reach me, you can reach me at Joy, JOYN, just the letter N, motion, MOTION.org. You can reach me there. You can go to my website, www.joinmotion.org again. You can reach me at it's Ivy Brown. I'm sorry. Ivy Brown 47@gmail.com. That's IVEY Brown 47@gmail.com. You can reach me at those two contact email. And I'm just excited about moving forward. If anyone is looking for any type of support, contact me. I am happy to help and to assist you and to point you in the right direction. Joy in Motion is a mentor program that was birthed out of my own despair, okay? Out of my own cry, where, you know, that silent dancer, okay, in the church, but yet with still dealing with those things that I was not at liberty and did not have the confidence that I could trust individuals. So I understand that silent journey that a lot of individuals travel along the way. But guess what? You do not have to be alone. You are not alone. And it is okay. And you will be okay. And I'm excited to tell you that you will be okay. So just know that there is help, there's support. Know that whatever is going on in you and through you, that, you know, I always say God always wins, right? And he always wins. And he always ends on a positive.
Yeah.
So if you're still in the negative zone, it's okay. Work through process through the journey and know that God always ends on a positive. That's it, Jocelyn. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so thank you so much for that. Oh my God, and another question just popped in my head, but I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna hold it for our next time together. I will not go there. Okay. That always happens. Okay, so every time we have a broadcast and have a guest, I usually ask them 2 questions. One of them is around reading, because I love reading, and I think it helps us grow as individuals. It can be a time of self-care. And what books are you currently reading, or would you like to recommend to our audience?
Okay. I have 3 books that, I'm that person because I'm just kind of on the go, and I might pick up a book and I'll start a book. Then I'll pick another book up and I'll start a book, So I'm going to share those books with you.
Okay.
One book I am going to share because I am also an author. So this is a book, Oh, the Joy of Beautiful Feet. And this is a book that I have authored, and it talks about some of the despair and depression I've gone through. But it's mainly for individuals that have that are going through life and that God has chosen in ministry. But because where we're going and what's going on in society, it doesn't matter if you are a minister of dance, if you are a musician. It doesn't matter if you're on the praise team. You might be in the kitchen. You might be a part of the cleaning committee. You might be working in the parking lot. This will empower you. Yes. And it will allow you to really become more transparent and open up to who you are and what you're going through. But the most important thing, it will let you know that God is still with you, and that there is nothing that you have gone through that God has not already known about. And he has already planned your ending, and he already has it laid out for you. So this is a really good read. If you want to get one of these books, you can certainly go to my website, joyemotion.org. Another great book, this is a book called Radiant by Priscilla Shirer. And I love this, His Light, Your Life. And it's for teen girls and young ladies, as I mentor young individuals, young girls. It talks about, the culture that we're in. Your culture does not define you. You're not labeled by the culture. You're not labeled by any illnesses or things that you're going through or you have gone through. It talks about, deception that we have experienced oftentimes in life. But guess what? We're radiant of God. God loves us, and God, he has such a beautiful and a marvelous plan for our lives. So get this book, Priscilla Shirer. It's going to bless you. Those who look to him are radiant. And that's what I love about this. And that's from Psalm 34:5. Those who look to God. And in your journey of self-care, look to God and make your self-care a biblical approach. Take it from a biblical approach. You start your self-care with God. You end your self-care with God. And you know that, he makes just all things beautiful. And it's time, Jocelyn, right? We know that. He makes
yes, he does.
So another good read is This is Critical Leadership Lessons for Women by Monica Johnson. And this is fabulous 30. She has 30 tips in this book. She's actually the director of the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. And I love this book. This is a great read, and it empowers us as women because we are somebody. And when you know that, and you walk in that, and you believe that, I don't care what you're doing, and I don't care what you have, you're still amazing.
Yes.
So she's giving you tips for women in leadership. And if you're not a leader, then you can become a leader because we're all leaders in something, right?
Exactly.
We are. And this is one of my good friends, Quanice Pepe. This is a new book. She's a new author, A Glimpse of Our Fathers, A Glimpse of Our Father. And she's a mom with 2 amazing daughters. But what she does in this book is these are lessons parenthood reveals from all of God's children. So God is revealing some nuggets, some lessons to his children because he is our father, right? He is Abba. And it's nothing like Abba and knowing the presence of the Father in our lives when we need him the most. So there's some really great books that I would recommend that you read if you enjoy reading like Jocelyn.
Yes. Okay. So my second question, last question is it's Women's History Month. What woman, living or dead, would you love to spend time with just so you could just understand who they are, how they did what they did, and the legacy that they have left?
Okay, I was asked this question in one of our department meetings, and this was before Cicely Tyson died.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always just been so, I don't know, impressed and endowed by her. She was a beautiful woman, strong, amazing, and that would be the person that is dead now. I would say now our vice president. Yes. President,
Madame Harris. Madam Harris, Madam Vice President. Yes.
I mean, just I could even get it out, Jocelyn. So I do appreciate you getting it out. Because I'm still in awe. I'm just still in awe of that. And that is amazing. Right here, right now, in the time that we're in, that I personally never even thought that would happen, growing up. But to see this today.
Yeah, it's awesome. So
it is awesome. Amazing.
It's amazing. It is amazing. It is amazing. Well, Kelley Brown, I tell you, thank you. And I do want to
thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you.
You said this toward the beginning. If you are just catching this toward the end, please go back and watch this. I mean, Kelley has such good nuggets. Is first of all, be empowered. If there are any wellness issues, but you are not defined. I love this, that you are not defined by a thing, whatever that thing is.
Absolutely.
It does not define who you are. It might be a diagnosis. It might not even be non-diagnosable or whatever.
Absolutely.
I don't know. It doesn't matter, but you are not defined by that. Okay? If you have dealt with, or if you're dealing with postpartum depression, you are not the person, I'm the depressive one. No, you're not defined by that. Okay? I just had to get that out. That was that was great.
That was
great.
Thank you.
Yes. So thank you so much. We will have Kelley back, and we'll have her back soon. She and I are going to talk about that. But I hope it's been as good for you as it has been for us.
Yes.
Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, if you're watching this via the replay, please put #replay. This will be up on my YouTube channel. I will put a link eventually in Facebook for that. Please go back and watch this, because I know we are all touched by this. This is something we are all touched by, whether it's you or someone you love. We want you to be healthy and whole.
Yes, absolutely.
And so we send many blessings to you. Have a great rest of the week.
Yes.
We love you, and peace. This is your girl, Jocelyn. Thank you for navigating now. Have a great night.
Blessings.